Hi, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to talk about, the unified customer view. That's largely the panel discussion about today, right? You already know the people on the stage. We have Amit and Harleen. Let me just start off with saying, this is going to be very contrasting in terms of the two brands that we have today head on, right? Who's going to talk about their experiences and the aspirations. Very different categories, very different user personas, right? Very, very, very different, realistic problems, right? We'll get started. Amit?
Thanks, Akhilesh. I think you are very right that you are looking at two extreme sort of segments, and with those segments are coming to extreme set of different customers, right? So when you think of Cisca, you think of LED. While there is something beyond LED that I'm also offering in the market, but at present it's LED, right? Now let's do a fun round right away so that you like get a little warm up now with the topic, because we are talking about unified view of customers, right? सबके घर में लाइट लगाते हैं हम लोग, खुद जाके खरीदते हैं. Now raise your hand and swear कि मुझे मालूम है कि मेरे घर में कितने सॉकेट्स हैं, कितने ब्रांड्स के मैं बल्ब्स यूज़ करती हूँ या करता हूँ, और कितने वॉट का बल्ब होता है. आई एम रियली लुकिंग फॉरवर्ड टू दैट ऑनेस्ट हैंड रेस कि मुझे तो पूरा मालूम है मेरे घर के अंदर का. चलिए, ओपन टू द ऑडियंस. कस्टमर, लेट्स लुक एट
Can we have a mic for the audience? Yeah.
कोई तो हाथ खड़ा कर लो यार, क्योंकि टॉपिक ही कस्टमर का है.
Okay, we
थोड़ा
have...
सा एक आधा हैंड रेस वहाँ से कहीं चुपके से निकला है. Yes, sir. Yeah, bulbs, LED bulbs.
Bulbs in 9 watts you are getting, in 2 lights is 20 watts you are getting. There are different 5 watts, 1 watt, 3 watt, 5 watts, 9 watts. Then I think 15 watts, 20 watt, 25 watts. There are different type of LEDs basically what are available.
So sir, I'll first want you to introduce yourself.
Yeah, hi, my name is Manoj. I'm come from a company called MedConnect.
Okay, so I'll put it the Amit way. So when we were just having a casual chat, he started off, and I like the fact that he started off with when you try and look at the customer, right? When you try and build a persona, so he started off with okay, where do you live? That's the geo where you start from, right? How many rooms do you have in your home, right? So I think let's start from that.
Yeah.
Right.
See, I think why I was talking about this small, exercise is the fact that we are all the customers of this category, right? LED bulbs. We are using this product almost on daily basis, whether it is summer, winter, rainy season, or whatever. Unlike the other appliances you have in the house, But how organically we are engaged with this product. Like one hand out of those many, people in the audience itself is a testimony of the fact that are we ready for that? Because unless and until you are ready for that, and even if then I try to engage with you, are you going to respond? Are you going to appreciate? When you go to this counter to buy that one bulb, there is a warranty card which is in the box. How many times you really bother to, preserve that card? Very very judiciously, and then you say कि चलो जब बल्ब खराब होगा तो हम जाके चेंज करेंगे, because Indian customers को replacement से बड़ा प्यार होता है, लेकिन बल्ब के लिए ये लागू नहीं होती है चीज़, right? So I think from there I was coaxing Akhilesh कि that's the reality of the category. Right. Over to you, Akhilesh. I think I have done the acid test right now.
Yeah.
But one thing, like you said about the warranty card, now detail if you buy any product, there is no warranty cards. They just put a marker, the warrant, the date of purchase.
Absolutely. That's where you're
Yes.
coming from, right? Because that's the mentality, right? And it's also tied to, I think, the ticket size, right? As to what is the worth of the product in the mindset of the consumer,
Exactly.
right? That's also very important. So I think Amit has a few more cues on that. We'll talk about a lot of technology that Cisco is trying to bring on board. For solving the similar set of problem. But coming back to the question, any more responses that we have? How well does the consumer also know the brand? I think we are trying to play the reverse psychology card here, because we often talk about how well the brand knows the customer. Yeah, we have a few hands here.
There is white, milky, and yellow in terms of the color options from a LED bulb,
Right.
and then depending upon one's home or office, the use cases there. That at least you select from this and then segment to the wattage of the size of the room or the office. So yeah, I think.
Cool.
Okay. So yeah. Okay. We have one more.
And one important change which has happened in the last 5 to 10 years is that early used to come in only largely one shape and size, one shape at least, cylindrical. Now you have dime a dozen variety of designs, shapes, and also the color combination inside and outside. So that gives a lot of credence to the way you decorate your house with various lights, plain lights, colored lights. So the entire thing has changed, and that's why it has come into a FMCG category over a period of time, or about to be coming into that category, because the shelf life is largely a bit more than, say, other similar electrical products of small price tickets. So I would say that it has evolved a lot, and that's why the brand extension is able to help to move from one product to several products in the last 5-7 years.
You are absolutely right, sir. I think because what happens typically when we are approached by the various associates in the market, when they are pitching the solution to us, at least in whatever ways possible, they think of this category as FMCG or FMEG. Now that's not, FMCG and FMCD. It's neither CG and it's not CD. It's FMEG. The behavior is completely different, because I'll tell you example. This guy, somebody mentioned, I think the gentleman, that when you go and buy the bulb, you are given that one bulb जिस पे marker से कुछ लिख दिया जाता है. And I think I remember one fine day, because I'm advocating Cisco as a brand, I was like, चलो मैं तो customer भी हूँ, मैं जाके I'll go and change that bulb. And I took that bulb to one shop, whatever that nearmost shop that I had, and the guy tells me, sir, ये मेरे शॉप से नहीं लिया. And I was so embarrassed कि मतलब for whatever that 150-200 rupees, why will I create a story? He's like, नहीं, आपने ये वाला बल्ब ना वो वाले शॉप से लिया. I said, क्यों, कैसे पता चला? बोले राइटिंग उसकी है. So I think these are the hard realities. Definitely will add layer of technology to this once we move ahead in the conversation, but I think let's hear it out from Harleen.
From Harleen, yeah.
Yes, Harleen.
I think the world that I come from, so I work at a company called the Good Glam Group. We're a house of brands, digital first. And in our case, I think the customer knows much more. You would know, let's say, if you've gone on a site, आपने क्या browse किया, क्या देखा, what did you add to your cart, what did you wish list, right? You would remember all of that. So in our case, I think the biggest challenge is the customer remembers everything. If I just can't go wrong and say, Harleen, you wish listed this, because Harleen knows she didn't wish list this, right? So they know everything, and hence, how do we stay ahead of the game? How do we know preemptively what the customer wants? So,
No, so very, very fair point. But you mentioned that it's a disadvantage, right? From the lens, where a lot of us, including us, we would rather say, isn't that a competitive advantage, from a category aspect, when we talk about Cisco and Good Glam, right? Maybe your consumer is more educated in terms of their needs, right? And more closer to the brand, the discovery problem of it all, is largely solved for. Because you're kind of more focused on the engagement side of it, while with Cisco, I didn't hear anybody tell me anything apart from LEDs, right? See, that's one thing that we were trying to also talk about, because whenever you talk Cisco, right, light years ahead, LED is the prime category, that we resonate with, right? But we'll hear from Amit, that's not the case, right? But when you talk about Good Glam, right, per se, the customer, exactly knows where to go, what to buy, their needs, they know, right? Like, we didn't get many answers when Amit asked as to, do you know the wattage? Do you even know, that the sockets that you have, how many sockets do you need or do you have, right? And should those be Cisco, right? So what's your take in terms of, the engagement aspect of the customer? What are the you would I would say the use cases that come to your mind, that you would already be solving for from an engagement perspective?
So, Akhilesh, I think we're talking about single view of a customer.
Correct.
And we are house of brands. So, for the Good Glam Group to know that, hey, this is Harleen, She visited our MyGlam website. She browsed through, wishlisted, added to cart. These are the makeup products. She went to Mom's Co. She's a mom, right? And she bought a baby product, right? She went to PopXO, our content platform, and she read about, wedding essentials, right? So maybe she's a mom. Uh, she's about to go and attend a wedding. She's looking at, makeup products. How do I tie all of that into, a single view and say that, hey, Harleen, looking for wedding essentials, quick makeup hacks for new moms, right? How do I come to that as a level? Because that is what Harleen expects, right? I wouldn't want to say, as a customer, the expectation, and that's the challenge that I wanted to highlight, Akhilesh, right? As a customer, as a digital customer, we are very, very demanding, right? I wouldn't want Nykaa just to say that, Harleen, your cart misses you. No. Tell me why does my cart miss me, right? If the prices have dropped in my cart, they've dropped from X to Y, right? I want to know everything, and that's what I would say the competition is doing. That's what the market is doing, and hence we need to be on top of the game, and the game is always changing.
Good that you talked about the unified aspect, right? Because that's largely the challenge with any digital transformation strategy. When you talk about it. Now, since you put a lot of focus, and largely our panel is also focused around the same concept, what are the challenges that you face today when you're trying to arrive even, at a unified user view?
So I think one mammoth task there, Akhilesh, is the data itself. It's very easy to say that, hey, this is Harleen, these are the 5 things that she's done. But then we're talking about millions of users, millions of data points, all of that coming together, the data part of it, and then the insight part of it, right? That itself, said in 2 sentences, but takes months for, data architecture, data science team to figure out. So that is one task. From moving away from the MarTech, then you start doing campaigns on that. You start doing ABs. You start understanding that, hey, this is how you want to talk to Harleen versus this is how you want to talk to Akhilesh. Akhilesh prefers his communications in English. Harleen comes from a tier 2. Maybe I should use a different. So all of those things is something that it's a continuous process.
Right. And how do you come to know about it? I mean, so I think at this point we'll have to talk about different personas, right? And you're also touching upon the concept of personalization, more one-to-one contextual, intuitive communication, let's say, right? So do you want to talk about, as to how does your brand take care of those needs today?
Sure. So I think the first level is CDP, customer data profile, right? So how do we get all our customer data into, for the want of, a different word, but into a same data structure. All my customers there, I know each of them, which platforms they visited, what all have they visited across each of the platform, what's been their behavioral from, from a visit to a read to, all of that into one data structure. And then how do I start making sense of it? So I think that's something that we've largely uncovered, we've largely done from a CDP perspective. But the insight generation, reaching out to customers, that is an experiment. That's a constant AB that keeps going on. Right?
Sure. How many Good Glam customers in the room? Yeah, you were the first one to raise your hand. That's all we have? I'm sure we have more. Okay, how many Siska consumers in the room? Oh, wow. You got some party going on, right?
Mass brand appeal.
Wonderful. So I would want your take, Amit, on a similar instance, right? Because the category itself is very contrasting, right? I mean, your challenges are very different. There's a larger problem of discovery as well. And when you talk about user personas, it gets more critical and complex in your case, right? So what's your take on that?
See, I think Harleen spoke about that. See, listen, I have data and I have to stitch it together, right, Harleen? Now imagine, go like a step back and say, where is the data? I mean, like, first of all, you have to generate the data point and figure out that, okay, fine, whether it is making some sense or not to you, right? So I think I spoke about example, I started the conversation about the very basic LED bulb, where the customer is not really ready and keen to give your data, right? There is a warranty card, nobody bothers about it. He writes something with marker, you are like, okay, whatever. What do you do then as a brand? Because somewhere kahani to shuru karni hai aapko. right? I think that's the bigger task in hand. So I think for us, when you look at LED lights as a category, the data collection begins the moment I IoTize my product. Okay. Now these are the products which are controlled from an app. They can be controlled from your voice assistants, etc. So I know exactly, Harleen is my customer because she has bought the product, and then I'm going to engage with her. Okay, that what is she using, from that product? What is the frequency, etc., etc. And then I'll add more layers to it as I go along. But the question is that Harleen is now my customer and I now know what is she up to in terms of my product usage. Example, she is not my customer, then what do I do then? उसका भी कुछ करना पड़ेगा ना solution. So what do we do then? The answer to that is, I was just mentioning this to Akhilesh, we are using a technology by the name Neurotechnology. It's a 2-layer QR. Yeah.
So let's open it to the house. How many of us are aware with this concept? That Cisco is already incorporating in their products.
Nobody. So I think that's the scope that we have as a brand to keep on working on very, very judiciously. See, Neurotag is a technology layer that we have brought in categories like example. So we spoke about Cisco ka naam lete LED lights aata hai, which is true. I mean, like, that's my major sort of contributor in the top line. But we have also diversified across various categories, right? From your grooming appliances, mobile accessory solution, smart home products, fans, wires and cables, so much to it. Now these categories, because they are talking to not like an uncle like me, which is an LED customer, but like millions and millennials and Gen Zs like you, those youngsters, who are aspiring to look good, who are aspiring to remain connected, and for that they need grooming solutions, mobile accessories, right? And they are okay to experiment. I think with these categories we have started the adoption of this technology, jahan pe when you buy, or rather where you are about to buy a product, you hold the dabba in your hand and say, let me figure out whether this is authentic also or not. Though this neurotechnology actually helps you to first of all understand about the product, but you're not buying this. You just had the intention to buy, आपने खरीदा नहीं है, but because of the fact that you checked the authenticity, मुझे data मिल गया आपका. So I can use that data to continue my narratives in the future. Then if I'm lucky and you buy my product, I'm very happy, and then you say, okay, chalo abhi iska warranty registration karte hain. So that technology, gives you a second layer of warranty registration, which confirms that, Harleen is my customer. So from there my kahani begins. Otherwise data nahi tha, imagine. So one data point is my app. Now, we have a Cisco smart home app. I was just talking to Akhilesh ki we started the journey with LED lights. Then we IoTized a lot of these products, right? From fans to cameras, and we brought everything under one roof, which is Cisco smart home app. So it is actually helping me to, multiply my data points. So I think that's how we, in the category which is FMEG, are trying to first of all create data points. We'll talk about customer persona a little later.
Yeah. So, the problem kind of just compounds, right? When you talk about, more categories, more data points, right? Now you have millions of sets of, and cuts of data points, right? So you are just compounding the very innate problem of data silos, right? How as brands, do you guys come around it? How do you circumvent that? Because that's a very critical aspect of when you're trying to look at a unified, data, user view, right? So any inputs on those lines as to how you're trying to fight the problem of data silos, and at what all layers in the system does that actually exist?
See, there are two sets of it. One is the data that you can control because of the fact that you have your own D2C platform, you have your exclusive brand outlets, etc. You have your e-com wing, which is working very, very, sort of up there the way they are supposed to. So that much portion is controllable. That's under control. But look at the fact that this category is still distribution based. कितने लोगों ने यहाँ पे सुपर स्टॉकिस्ट, रिटेलर, डिस्ट्रीब्यूटर ऐसे नाम पता नहीं सुने हैं, नहीं सुने, मुझे पता नहीं है. That's the major chunk from where you get the revenues back in the system. Now imagine if I'm talking to a customer like Harleen only, my life is sorted. But if I have the entire distribution that I'm supposed to talk to, imagine those many customer data points are generated in the system, number one. Number two, she also touched upon data formats. These data formats are also very different from each channel sales to another channel sales, right? And so on and so forth. So the problem gets compounded on its own. आपको मेहनत भी नहीं करनी पड़ती है उसे तकलीफ में डालने के लिए, वो खुद ही तकलीफ में डाल देती है आपको.
How do you phase this out? Like that's a very realistic problem to solve for, but how do you phase this out? Any takes on that?
See, I think definitely as a brand we have started adopting technology. So I was just mentioning, backstage that before you look at customer data point, it is important to figure out what is happening with your inventory, because whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm saying, etc., at the core of it lies this awesome product, right? अब अगर मुझे उस product की information नहीं है, what do I do? So right from the factory to logistics to warehouse to regional warehouse to super stockist, distributor, retailer, I think that many touch points in terms of my product journey needs to be mapped first. I think that's the very basic that you need to sort of address, I guess. So that much portion we have solved from last 2 years, I would say. Now we know exactly what is being produced, what is being stored, and what is being bought. Very important. Because going ahead, obviously the idea would be to take Akhilesh's order on my D2C, but give him that interface of product delivery from the local store, right? So this is going to also empower my distribution. See, understand, the human psyche is very difficult to address. बड़ा डर लगता है कि अगर टेक्नोलॉजी आ गई तो मेरा पावर, मेरा कंट्रोल चला जाएगा, मेरा कस्टमर चला जाएगा.
True.
So I think here the idea is also to empower your distribution partners, saying that कि order मैं ले आऊँगा आपके लिए, delivery आप कर दो, and you make your margins. That's very important. So I think that's just one portion, of the question that I thought of sharing here right now.
Let me also extend that into, let's say that first use case, when you're trying to phase this out, right? What's that first use case that comes to your mind?
That's a tricky one. See, I think we are first of all focusing on, unifying the customer data point as far as my new categories are concerned, because they're easy to deal with. Because I know customer is pretty much online. So you go and search the products online, you consider the brand online, you buy the brand online, right? So I think that's the first piece that we have taken on the plate. And it has its own merit also, because मैं एक बनिया हूँ और बनिया हमेशा बोलता है कि मुझे कैसे extra पैसे कमाने हैं. So I think my point is, if I'm able to sort out that first piece with younger audiences, I know tomorrow they are going to be my LED customers. Day after tomorrow they are going to be my, hopefully, wires and cables customer. Who knows? So I think there is a customer lifetime value attached to this entire journey. So I think that's where we are pretty much clear that we need to sort out the piece of the younger audiences first.
So you start with the younger audience. Okay, so now is it also safe to say that, when you look at Siska, right, it resonates more with the new age, as it comes across as a new age brand and resonates more with that, age demographic, let's say?
I would love to believe that. I mean, yes, I think Siska as a brand is very homegrown, new brand in the space, not even 10 years old technically. But I think the way we have created those aggressive marketing campaigns, now today, whether you say LED, you say Siska, or maybe if you would have said Irfan Khan 2 years back, to Siska ka hi naam aata hai, I think. So I think now, look at the fact that, because of the, aggressive marketing that we have done, if they are not my customers, at least they are aware about the brand that Siska matlab LED. I think that's half the battle is won. Uske baad dekha jayega.
Harleen, what's your take on this? Like, when you talk about your category, right? I mean, putting the same question ahead to you. What's that first use case that comes to your mind? And, how do you try to phase this out? Because you're more digitally empowered, I would say, right? Ahead of the curve, because, digital first brand that way. I think the solutioning will also be very different, in terms of trying to phase out the data silos problem. How do you counter that? At Good Glam today?
So, Akhilesh, you're talking about CDP, and I said, right?
Yeah, CDP.
We've done a large part of it. But having said that, and I would mention a very important point of inventory. That's the last leg that we're tying up together, right? Getting all of our inventory on SAP. We are trying to go offline. So that is something, where they want to, have the first customer data, launch the site, build that. We have an offline site which is in silos.
Right.
We have our inventory which is getting deeply integrated with all our platforms as of now, so that we have a real-time view of, Harleen is trying to, order XYZ product, which warehouse is it, which is the nearest one, is it there, is it out of stock? All of that is something that we're trying to do. But having said that, yes, I think being largely digital helps, but we still have certain data points which are in silos, plus the fact that we are adding newer brands to the house of brands. That's an ongoing thing that, every time you take up a brand, you integrate, you bring all of the data points, into the CDP. So that's something that, we are ongoing.
Right. So let me also, ask you this, since you are closer to the engagement and the retention space, right, in terms of having a tool in place in order, right? So a very direct question would be, that a product like WebEngage, how are we able to solve for the data silos problem? I mean, are we able to solve for it in entirety? Do we come across as a CDP to you? And how is it being leveraged?
So currently not using as a CDP, but what we've done, we are using the customer attributes, provided by WebEngage very, very aggressively. So what we do is that we send feeds from the CDP to WebEngage and utilize that for entire automation. So I think WebEngage as a marketing automation tool is doing 100% of job for us. But having said that, we are feeding it through the data science pipelines.
And how effectively are you able to segment the audience? Because that's also an integral part of, when you're trying to look at the data, right? Since you have those million cuts of data attributes, like user attributes you mentioned, right? How effectively those segmentations work out for you, and, how do they enable your digital strategy when you're trying to kind of engage with the audience?
So, okay, just saying, how do I say, we looked at data, we looked at micro segments, right? But from campaign to campaign, right? For me, as a marketer, it helps to know that, hey, there are these 500 segments, right? Out of these 500 segments, these 20 are the ones which contribute, let's say, 80%. The rest is smaller ones. I want to ignore them. But do I do WhatsApp campaign to 500 segments? No, right? I would do rule based that, okay, here are my tier 2, here's my tier 1 audience, here's my, XYZ category affinity audience. How do I then start bulking them up, right? Making a bigger segment to it, right? Going back to personalization, that's something that we're using WebEngage for. Right? We are using time-based personalization, and we are using, the product recommendation. That's something that we started using very recently, last 1.5 months. So that's something that we are trying to do, because that is something I as a marketer understand that an API-based feed cannot do. Right? This has to be tool-based intelligence, and that's where we're using WebEngage for.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'll open it to the audience. I think we've been very quiet for a long time. So let's ask these folks any questions that you have at this point in time. I'm open to take questions. Yeah. Yeah, but you'll be better off with the mic. Yeah.
Thanks. Basically my question is, for digital first organizations like Good Glam, I can understand that addressing data silos and kind of integrating things is slightly more easier than traditionally offline led orgs. So this question is for you, Amit, more. Like, do you see that there is a larger percentage of your GMV or your sales? Would it be right to say it's still offline driven? And if yes, then how do you kind of address the data silos or the lack of data, as you mentioned, in that particular cohort of your business? And the data that you do get in your offline or online part, is that truly indicative of what the nature of your customer is in the offline part, or are they different?
Very valid question, I think. And we try to figure out the answers of these questions almost on daily basis, because as I said, almost 80% of the revenue is coming to you from the offline channel. Because today, all said and done, digital, this, that, tech stack, nobody goes online and say, want to buy bulb. You always go to a nearby shop, electrical shop, hardware shop, वहाँ से आप bulb लेकर आते हैं. So from there the journey begins, and which is contributing major revenue, right, to the entire system. So what do you do then, right? The bigger question is, if that is the reality, how do you handle this reality? The question is very simple, that how do you handle the reality, but the answer is very complex. So example, I spoke about inventory management. So I think SAP S4 HANA has sort of helped us in answering some of those questions in terms of inventory, because unless and until you have the transparency in terms of what your inventory is, you will not understand what needs to be arranged and at what point of sale. That's one. Secondly, I think technical arrangements are easy to deal with, but when it comes to dealing with people, I think that's when you need to be very, very cautious about as to how do you want to approach your business partners, because they need to also see a great amount of value in that tech stack. Otherwise they will always say that we don't need this, abhi kaam chal raha tha to aage bhi chalega, kya karna hai aapko. So I think that's pretty much what we're dealing with. Second, you spoke about whether my online customers profile is different than the offline ones. I would say not really, because trust me, if I'm giving awesome discounts to people in the online space, because it is pretty much transactional. So people are buying those products, and yet there are lot many customers who are actually looking at, no, let me go and experience the products. For example, we have these exclusive brand outlets, Siska Lounge, जो पहले एलईडी डिस्प्ले करता था, बिकॉज एलईडी के नाम पे एक बल्ब या एक पैनल लाइट किसी ने कहा था, उतना ही एक दिमाग में आता है, बट देयर इज सो मच टू इट. सो फॉर दैट रीजन वी स्टार्टेड इंट्रोड्यूसिंग दिस कॉन्सेप्ट इन द कंट्री फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम बाय द नेम सिस्का लाउंज. सो द आइडिया ऑफ सेटिंग दिस लाउंज वाज टू नॉट टू actually go and do business and sell and make money or whatever, but the idea was to educate these customers, right? So from that interface we realized that the consumers were buying things pretty much from my D2C. They are not very much different when it comes to the offline market. It is just that they have their different agendas to sort out, that experience that they are craving for. And education, मतलब I mean, like imagine LED बचाए पैसे and all that is a हो गया 5-6 साल का concept अभी. Not today, LED is doing much beyond those saving things. So I think these are some of those softer aspects that we are trying to address with the help of the distribution partners. See, everything can't be digital. Digital is going to empower the business, empower the customer, but then there is a huge array of your distribution partners, and I think while you go digital, it is also important to actually make them also go digital. I think that's where the win-win proposition is going to be. So this will take time, but definitely it's already coming in. We can see the difference now. Hopefully एक समय आएगा जहाँ पे मुझे मार्कर से लिखा बल्ब नहीं मिलेगा.
Thank you for your answer.
Do we have more questions?
Hello. Hey, hi. Samukta, this is to you. I'm assuming that in your day-to-day operations, a lot of money goes in performance marketing, and being digital marketeers, and also like a lot of omni-channel presence, a lot of money goes online. You're able to use CDPs and MTAs or whatever wider tools to get the returns that you get from there. But a lot of credit also goes to offline channels. You're running online ads, but a lot of transactions are directly going offline. How do you really claim that back, being a digital marketer, report that and optimize on that?
So I think...
you want to take it? Yeah. You have a take on it? Who's going to take it?
See, I think if you're asking as to how do we attribute, right, the performance of the campaign, is that what the question is?
No, not just attribute, but how do you, like, I mean, what are the touch points? How do you activate on their data and try to, get some credit that we are digital marketeers, but we're not just like driving a sale on the website. Because of the ad that I ran, there was a physical transaction that happened in the store, or I saw an ad, but I just walked in and I spent like 2,000 rupees in a skin clinic. Is that a gap that you often see maybe?
See, I think if I've understood the question correctly, there are two ways of answering that. One is that, if my entire, program is driven with the help of a product-based proposition, then whether it is online or whether it is offline, I get to see the impact, in the system over a period of time. So example, if I go out in the market and say, hey, listen, I'm giving 50% discount on the LED bulbs. Are you going to buy 10 bulbs ka stack in one shot the way you buy 3-4 t-shirts of Zara just because he gives you 20% discount in the festival season? Tell me. No, it's not the case. And when you open the wardrobe after a year and then you find that
still
sorry
there
t-shirt
on the
lying
top
in one
shelf.
corner, you don't feel bad कि यार 2000-3000 की t-shirt मेरी बेकार चले गई, as in रखा है. But the moment you pull out the drawer और उसमें कहीं corner में आपको 100 रुपए का bulb दिखता है, you are like, किसने लाया? कौन है ये? As if you're gonna just throw them out. So that's the way you are approaching the category. So my communication as a brand is not driven by product. जहाँ पे launching one bulb, 20% discount on a tube light, yeah, tube light पे एक bulb free. I think that's not what we as a brand have decided for us, right? And that's what I think makes us a very strongly recalled brand. Now coming to the second part of your question, I think there are these new categories which I spoke about, grooming and mobile accessories, right? Now because I know, as Harleen was talking about, whom do you want to target basis, your agendas in life, high value customer or somebody who has just bought your product, etc. I am today at least able to either, upsell or cross-sell various categories to that same online customer. So वहाँ पर I am not really bothered about as to how much conversion is happening in the offline space because that's not the objective, first of all. So I think there are two ways of looking at it.
Okay, got it.
Thanks.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah. We'll take this as the last one, right?
Hi everyone, my name is Amit from Inberg. So basically my question is to Harleen. Considering that Good Glam is present in the offline space as well, what do you look in terms of discounts in the next 2 or 3 years? Ki, for example, Indian consumers are like, अभी मुझे गुड ग्लैम के कोई स्टोर में डिस्काउंट मिल रहा है तो मैं एक बार शॉपिंग करके फिर नेक्स्ट दूसरे कोई शॉप में जाऊंगा एंड वैसा. So how will you retain that first time customer कि वो 10 times आपके shop में आके वापस से shopping करे, like बार बार will you think to give the discount क्योंकि वो तो possible नहीं होगा क्योंकि burns will happen and profits कम करना पड़ेगा. But considering कि major many retail players are coming in the offline space, how will you tackle this in the coming years कि discounts का space जो है वो कैसे आपको लग रहा है in the next 2 to 3 years?
Very interesting question.
Yeah.
And I have always called discounts as a rabbit hole. You can keep giving them, आपको आज 40 मिलेगा, कल को हम कहेंगे 50%. I might want to call it buy one get one for a better AOV. But having said that, there's no end to it. But as a marketer, would I stop doing that or would I not do that? No. Again, harping on the same thing, I know there are certain set of customers, right? Inko discount chahiye, right? I will not leave that. So that is money on the table. I know that Akhilesh and Amit is going to buy full price or a buy one get one or a 20% discount. I will give them. So I will do what we essentially call discount optimization, right? You're a first time customer. Typically as marketers, that's the lure we try to give, first time conversion, give them the best discount possible because we want them to try the product, right? We want them to try our flagship product, our best sellers, and with the promise that they are going to love the product. The product will be our brand, right? You are going to use that, that shampoo, that conditioner, and come back to us because you want more of it, right? But having said that, we know they are discount seekers. Again, try to identify them through patterns, try to identify them through campaigns, time and again, they are not converting. And then the idea is to give them the right amount of discount and get them back. So that's where, when you look at your margins, this is where you derive your maximum margins from your high value customers. But then there are some customers who are going to give you low margins, but you want to leave on those margins. So yes, that's a strategy. So, when customers come time and again, how do we, one, bring them time and again, and how do we get them at a lower discount or at a better margin? So I think that's something that, you keep driving at.
And I think you're largely able to do this only when you know your consumer, right? and you
Absolutely,
know the
absolutely.
entire journey, and you have that unified view, right? So it's again the omni-channel presence has to be there in front of the marketer to understand as to
Absolutely.
what are those touch points, where the consumer is present, right?
How do you
And
preempt that, hey, Harleen hasn't opened my app in like last 3 months, right? Whereas Akhilesh has been opening app every other day.
Every
So
other
he's
day.
a high intent customer.
Correct. So you won't burn that discount on people.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Very well said. So considering that's the last question, I'll just close with Amit. Amit, this question is to you. Largely, the broader context around, how do you stitch online and offline, right? Because that's where the meat is, right? Because you said that, online is still 20% of the entire scope, right? So while 80% is still offline, and it's a very integral part of the digital transformation strategy when you look at it, right? So how does automation, in any automation stack, or engagement stack, play a pivotal role, and how do you position that within the ecosystem?
So I think as at the moment we are in the position to decode and decipher what my smart home product users are doing, right? Which product they have bought, which color output they are using the most, at what time of the day they are using those attributes, and from which location they are trying to figure out the solutions, I think. So with that, information, what we are in the position to create is a very specific, high targeted marketing programs for these guys with the help of AI automation tools, which actually talks about, okay, that if Akhilesh is more into using the mood light in the evening of a particular style, then he is going to be targeted with that kind of narrative even in the future. Now, even within that category, if he's using a very high-end smart bulb, then I'm sure that even though he is open to the idea of experiencing my other smart products as well.
Sure. So it's building personas, right?
Slowly and
Yeah.
gradually.
So that's the larger play, that you build the personas, but then again, the larger aspect of how you stitch online and offline together to get that,
See, I'm going to be very candid. You need to stitch, first of all, this online, offline in your head, I guess. I think because the bigger resistance, comes from the fact that sab kuch to theek chal raha hai, why do you want to change this? I think I have been repeating this many a times across all the forums with all my stakeholders and associates that typically what happens, you want to just do a tick mark activity ki yes, मैंने digitalization कर दिया है. That's one. Secondly, you don't realize that, going ahead, whether this is really going to solve your business problem or not, or it is only going to solve your marketing related questions. But marketing is one part of
Sure.
the business, right? There is a whole big ecosystem lying out there for you. Third and the last is because you want to take that lead in the system of bringing the change, you are given the charge completely. हाँ अब तुम ही कर लो. I think that doesn't happen.
I think a lot of people are able to resonate to this, right? That's the everyday life of a marketer, when you.
Yeah, I think it doesn't work that way because it is everybody's baby. But होता ये है कि marketing वाले ही.
But it's nobody's then at the end.
So I think these are some of the softer aspects in terms of the problems that we have to face, because we have enough and more tech solutions around us. But what is gonna be more apt for you in your business, I think this is something you need to discover over a period of time. Otherwise वो trial and error चलता रहेगा and you will be never able to sort of realize the real potential that you are trying to figure out, whether it is customer data or inventory data or anything in between as well.
Very well said. I think with that, Amit, thank you so much for your time. Wishing you many, many more lightning years ahead. And Harleen, thank you for being a wonderful customer. I think we did touch upon the larger problem statement here as to it's a very core and integral you would say problem to solve for when you look at consumer and the unified view. And in the larger scheme of things, right, whenever you're talking about a digital transformation strategy, right, it sits at the core, right? So your consumer is at the center. That's the larger CDP aspect of it all. And then how you engage with the customer over a period of time. So you need to be an integral part of that consumer journey, right? So I think we did have a lot of takeaways. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope you all as well did the same.